haven't seen a small guy do whatever he wants to do since Iverson. So I like Brunson. You know, I chose Brunson to talk about small guard and him not being able to carry a team, but he's a bad mofo, shut your
Yes, he is.
and he plays great ball, so I wanted to give him the nod.
It was dead. It was 100% dead. And then Brunson once he let Brunson score like 12 points, then those other guys just had to make a couple shots and it was over.
When Shaq started mentioning Jalen Brunson in the same breath as Iverson, most people didn't take it seriously, and those who did saw it as disrespect. Because when people looked at Brunson, they saw a former second-round pick who spent years coming off the bench in Dallas. However, Shaq saw control. He saw a player who could dictate the game without overwhelming speed, a player who could get to his spots whenever he wanted. But it took some time for JB to get to this level, and now that he has, the numbers are putting him in some elite company. And Shaq saw it coming before everyone else did. The funny thing about Jalen Brunson's rise is that he spent almost his entire basketball life proving people wrong. Even before he got to the NBA, Brunson had already built the resume of somebody who should have been viewed as a future star. At Villanova, he wasn't simply putting up good numbers, he was winning at the highest level. 2 national championships, National Player of the Year, one of the smartest and most reliable guards in college basketball. And yet, when scouts talked about Brunson, the conversation almost always focused on all the things he wasn't. They said he wasn't explosive, he wasn't an elite athlete or physically imposing. Meanwhile, all he did was keep winning. After getting drafted at 33, he arrived in Dallas where Luka Doncic was already becoming one of the brightest young stars in basketball. And so, Brunson became exactly what many people expected him to be, a really good supporting player. A smart guard who could run an offense when needed, and for most of the league, that was enough. But what nobody realized was that while Brunson was playing in the shadows, he was quietly developing the exact skills that would eventually make him one of the most dangerous closers in basketball. The footwork, patience, balance, ability to absorb contact, and everything that has put him in a situation to lead a team to a title before Luka Doncic at the time of this writing. Those are words no one could have predicted just a few years ago. When Jalen Brunson left Dallas for New York in the summer of 2022, the reaction around the league wasn't excitement. It was skepticism. The Knicks had just handed a 4-year contract worth more than $100 million to a player many people still viewed as a backup. Even Shaq just regarded him as a good player then. The skepticism and criticism became so loud that people almost forgot to ask the most important question. What if Brunson was actually better than everyone thought? The funny thing is that this wasn't a new experience for Jalen Brunson. At Villanova, people questioned him too. However, the difference now was that for the first time in his career, Brunson had a team that was fully committed to putting the ball in his hands and seeing what happened. And what happened was the transformation of an entire franchise. The Knicks didn't just get a point guard. They got an offensive engine who wasn't overwhelming defenders with speed or jumping over people. He was simply getting exactly where he wanted to go and doing it over and over again until defenses ran out of answers. The footwork that had made him special at Villanova became one of the most reliable weapons in the NBA. The patience he developed in Dallas allowed him to manipulate defenders who were often bigger, longer, and more athletic. And perhaps most importantly, he never seemed bothered by pressure. And as the wins started piling up, so did the respect. Former player Gilbert Arenas said this, and I quote, "As a talent, Allen Iverson was more talented, more dangerous, but Brunson has a skill set that is only given to a certain type of man. Jordan had it, Kobe had it. I think Brunson is mentally the closest thing to what Kobe was in the fourth quarter." That praise became more common as the season progressed because people were beginning to realize that Brunson wasn't simply exceeding expectations, he was changing them entirely. Arenas would take things further when he said, he is like what Dame was them years when Dame was a fourth quarter bandit and hitting them big shots. That's Brunson every night. It's like every game, he does not fail. And so, the more Brunson controlled games, the more that Iverson comparison started making sense. Not because he played like Allen Iverson, but because he was beginning to have the same effect on opposing defenses. By the time Brunson fully settled into life as the leader of the Knicks, the conversation around him had evolved. People were no longer debating whether he was worth his contract. Instead, they were trying to figure out why he seemed so comfortable when every game reached its most stressful moments. The closer the game became, the calmer Jalen looked. Possessions that felt frantic suddenly slowed down when the ball found its way into his hands. Defenders knew exactly who was taking the shot. Entire arenas knew exactly who was taking the shot. And somehow, he continued finding ways to deliver. The Celtics felt his full force in 2025 when he switched things up in the fourth quarter.
Oh, good defense from White, but Brunson still looking, falling away, puts it up, that's good! Brunson against White, hesitation, flips it up with the left hand, bank shot's good!
Dangerous man in the building with the ball. Clutch player, the award went to him. A chance for the lead here for the first time tonight!
Brunson looking, step back, three-pointer. It's good! Rattled around and dropped through!
Jalen Brunson joined Kobe Bryant as the only player since tracking began to score 100 or more fourth quarter points in the first 10 games of a playoff run. That consistency eventually earned him the NBA's Clutch Player of the Year award. There was a growing sense that if a game entered the final minutes and the score was close, New York already had an advantage because they had him. And Shaq was totally right when he called him Captain Clutch. But what was even more impressive was the way he did it, proving that skill, balance, footwork, and decision-making could still dominate the biggest moments. Defenders would force him into difficult situations only to watch him spin out of trouble, create just enough space, and knock down another shot that felt impossible to contest. Looking back, this was the stage where Shaq's prediction truly started aging well. The league had spent years focusing on Brunson's limitations, but Shaq had focused on something much more important, but no one believed him. As Brunson continued stacking clutch performances throughout the regular season, it became harder and harder to argue against that idea. And then, the playoffs arrived. The 2026 playoffs didn't reveal a new version of Jalen Brunson. It just showed how much he had grown into his game. Every strength that had made him successful during the regular season somehow became even more dangerous once postseason basketball arrived. And Jalen showed how clinical he was when he pulled the Knicks back from a 22-point deficit to win against the Cavs.
They want a timeout if he scores.
Brunson, three-pointer, puts it in! Brunson with Harden on him. Brunson on the drive, the floater, bank shot, it's good! Drives, gets past Harden, gets inside, the floater's up and good!
It was 100% dead, and then Brunson once he let Brunson score like 12 points.
By the end of the game, the Cavs coach had to give Jalen Brunson his flowers.
Brunson obviously took over at the end, and we started double teaming him and try to do some different things.
But you see, when you let your game speak like that, the numbers start to put you in a company of legends that people don't want to put you in. After Brunson's 50th playoff game with the Knicks, he had gained enough points to be top 6 in that category. That means he is 6th in the exclusive company of Michael Jordan, Elgin Baylor, Luka Doncic, Allen Iverson, and Jerry West in league history. And somewhere along the way, Shaq gave him the perfect nickname, Captain Clutch. Shaq didn't just predict that Jalen Brunson would become good. Plenty of people already did that. What made Shaq different was that he recognized a quality most people overlooked because they were too focused on measurements, athletic testing, and draft position. While everyone else was paying attention to what Brunson lacked, Shaq was paying attention to what he controlled. He saw a player who never looked overwhelmed, A player who understood pace better than almost anyone on the floor. A player who could create offense without relying on physical gifts that usually dominate highlight reels. No one believed him before, but now he's getting closer and closer to delivering the Knicks their first title in decades. And if you want to see what NBA players really think about Jalen Brunson, watch What NBA Players Really Think About Jalen Brunson next.